San Quentin State Prison, Cell Block D. The therapy dog had comforted hundreds of inmates over 3 years, but every time he passed cell 47, which had been empty for decades, he would stop, sit, and cry. Real tears. What the warden discovered in the 1962 execution records would not only solve a 60-year-old murder, but reveal that the real killer had been hiding in plain sight. Welcome to DogVision TV. Before we uncover how one dog's grief exposed the greatest miscarriage of justice in American prison history, tell me, where are you watching from today? And if you believe some souls never find peace until the truth is told, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. October 2024, San Quentin State Prison, California. The therapy dog program had been running for 5 years. Every Tuesday and Thursday, trained dogs would visit inmates, providing comfort and reducing violence by 40%. Among them was Bailey, a 4-year-old golden retriever with an extraordinary sensitivity to human emotion. His handler, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, had worked with hundreds of therapy dogs, but Bailey was different. He could sense trauma from across a room, she'd later testify. Depression, anxiety, PTSD. Bailey always knew who needed him most. The program was so successful that Warden Marcus Thompson expanded it to include death row. Even the most hardened criminals seemed to soften around Bailey. But then came the incident with cell 47. November 5th, 2:30 p.m. Bailey was doing his rounds in D Block when he suddenly stopped outside cell 47. The cell had been empty since 1998. Structural damage made it uninhabitable. Bailey sat down and began to whimper. Then, for the first time in Dr. Mitchell's experience, the dog began to cry, actual tears rolling down his golden fur. "Bailey, come," Sarah commanded. But Bailey wouldn't move. He placed his paw on the cell door and howled, a mournful sound that echoed through the entire block. Inmates came to their cell doors, watching in silence. Guard Captain James Rodriguez approached. "That cell's been empty for 26 years, Doc. Nothing there but concrete and rust." But Bailey's reaction intensified. He lay down, pressing his body against the door, crying continuously. After 20 minutes, Sarah had to physically carry Bailey away. The dog shook for hours afterward. The next visit, Bailey did it again. And the next, and the next. By the 4th incident, Warden Thompson himself came to observe. "What's in that cell?" Sarah asked. "Nothing," Thompson replied. "It's been empty since—" He paused, checking his tablet. "Actually, it's been officially decommissioned since 1998, but it wasn't used for years before that." "Why?" Sarah pressed. Thompson scrolled through records. "Doesn't say. Just marked as unsuitable for habitation in 1976. Bailey was now scratching at the door, desperate to get inside. Thompson made a decision that would change everything. Open it. The ancient lock protested as it turned. The door swung open, revealing a standard 6x9 cell. Empty. Concrete walls, a rusted toilet, a metal bed frame without a mattress. Bailey rushed in and went straight to the back corner. He sniffed intensely, then lay down in that exact spot and resumed crying. "Get maintenance to check that corner," Thompson ordered. Foundation, walls, everything. But before maintenance arrived, the prison historian, Eleanor Hayes, age 73, approached with a dusty ledger. "Warden, I found something. Cell 47 has a history. May 18th, 1962. An inmate named Thomas Whitman was executed here." "Executed in his cell?" Thompson frowned. "That's not protocol." Eleanor shook her head. "Not executed in the cell. He spent his last night here before execution. But Warden, look at this." She showed him a newspaper clipping. "Whitman maintains innocence to the end." Convicted killer. Thomas Whitman, 28, went to the gas chamber still, proclaiming innocence in the murder of businessman Robert Chen. His last words, "The truth will find its way." Thompson couldn't ignore Bailey's behavior. He ordered a full investigation into the Whitman case. The files were archived in the basement, boxes that hadn't been opened in decades. Assistant Warden Jennifer Park and Guard Rodriguez spent 3 days reviewing everything. The case seemed straightforward. Robert Chen, wealthy businessman, shot in his home. Thomas Whitman's fingerprints on the gun witness saw Whitman leaving the scene. Whitman had worked for Chen. Recently fired, jury deliberated only 3 hours, but Park noticed something odd. The witness testimony. It's just one person, Henry Morrison. Rodriguez looked up. That's not a common name. Thompson felt his blood chill. My mother's maiden name was Morrison. Dr. Mitchell had an idea. If Bailey's reacting to something in that cell, maybe there's still biological evidence. DNA can survive decades in the right conditions. The forensics team took samples from the corner where Bailey had cried. They found something unexpected, blood traces in the concrete preserved by the alkaline environment. Meanwhile, Thompson researched his family history. His grandfather, James Morrison, had a brother named Henry. Henry Morrison died in 1989, but he'd lived in San Francisco in 1962. "We need to test that blood," Thompson said, his voice tight. "And test mine, too." The results took 2 weeks. When they came back, Dr. Amanda Foster from the crime lab looked shaken. "The blood in the cell matches Thomas Whitman. We compared it to hair samples from his personal effects. But Warden, there's something else. We found a second blood type, much less, but present." "Whose?" Thompson asked. "We ran it against the genealogical database. It's a familial match. To you." Thompson's investigation into his great-uncle Henry Morrison revealed the truth. Henry Morrison's journal, found in an attic, contained a confession written in 1988. "I killed Robert Chen. He discovered I was embezzling from his company. Thomas Whitman saw me leaving, so I framed him. I planted the gun, wore gloves with his prints from the office. I testified against an innocent man. I watched him die. The money I stole funded my brother's business, the one that made our family wealthy. I'm dying of cancer now. I'm too much of a coward to confess publicly, but I need someone to know. Tom Whitman was innocent. I murdered twice, Chen with a bullet, Whitman with a lie." Thompson sat in his office, staring at the confession. His entire family's wealth, his education, his career, everything built on blood money. Bailey was brought back to cell 47. This time, he entered calmly, went to the corner, and lay down peacefully, as if standing vigil. Thompson didn't hesitate. He called a press conference the next day. "Thomas Whitman was innocent," he announced to shocked reporters. "New evidence, including a confession from the real killer, proves he was wrongfully executed in 1962. The real killer was Henry Morrison, who framed Whitman and testified against him." A reporter asked, "How are you connected to this, Warden?" Thompson's voice was steady. "Henry Morrison was my great-uncle. My family's wealth came from money he stole from Robert Chen after murdering him. I'm resigning as warden, effective immediately." The room exploded with questions, but Thompson continued. "The state of California will formally exonerate Thomas Whitman. His descendants will receive full compensation, and the therapy dog who uncovered this truth, Bailey, will receive a special commendation." 3 days later, a woman appeared at the prison. Maria Whitman Davis, age 58, Thomas Whitman's granddaughter. She'd grown up in poverty, her family destroyed by the shame of having a murderer in the family. Her father had changed their name, moved states, died young from alcohol abuse. "My father never believed his dad was guilty," she said, tears streaming. "He died believing it, but no one would listen." She asked to see cell 47. When she entered, Bailey was there. The dog walked over to her, sat, and placed his paw on her hand. For the first time since this all began, his tail wagged. Maria knelt down and hugged Bailey. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for believing him." Marcus Thompson liquidated his entire inheritance, $4.3 million, and gave it to the Whitman family and criminal justice reform organizations. At the ceremony, he spoke. "My family benefited from a terrible injustice. I can't undo the past, but I can try to make amends." Thomas Whitman died, proclaiming his innocence. It took 62 years and a therapy dog to prove he was telling the truth. He looked at Bailey, sitting calmly beside Dr. Mitchell. This dog sensed what none of us could see: the weight of injustice, the presence of an innocent soul's anguish. He wouldn't let us ignore it. Dr. Mitchell later worked with paranormal researchers and scientists to understand Bailey's reaction. Dr. Kevin Yamamoto, a specialist in animal behavior, offered a theory. Dogs can detect chemical signatures we can't even measure. Extreme distress releases specific pheromones that can bind to surfaces. What Bailey detected might have been the biochemical imprint of Thomas Whitman's last night. His terror, his desperation, his innocence. But Dr. Mitchell had a simpler explanation. Some dogs just know. They sense injustice the way they sense cancer or seizures. Bailey knew an innocent man died in that cell, and he wouldn't let us forget it. Today, cell 47 has been converted into a memorial. A plaque reads, "Thomas Whitman, 1934 to 1962, wrongfully executed, exonerated, October 2024. The truth will find its way. Discovered by Bailey, therapy." Dog, who heard what we could not. Bailey still visits San Quentin twice a week. He walks past cell 47 now without stopping, his job there complete. Marcus Thompson works as a public defender, representing those who can't afford lawyers. He keeps a photo of Bailey on his desk. Maria Whitman Davis used the compensation to establish the Whitman Foundation for Wrongful Conviction. Their first campaign featured Bailey as their spokesperson, the dog who cried for justice. The Henry Morrison confession led to reviews of 17 other cases from the 1960s. 3 more wrongful convictions were overturned, but perhaps the most remarkable change was in cell block D itself. Inmates who witnessed Bailey's vigil began their own innocence project, reviewing cold cases and wrongful convictions. They've helped exonerate 8 people so far. Because sometimes it takes a dog to remind us that justice delayed is not justice denied. It's justice waiting to be discovered. Sometimes the dead do speak. We just need someone with the right heart to hear them. And sometimes that someone has 4 legs and an inability to ignore the truth. Bailey is now 7 years old. He's saved 23 inmates from suicide, helped 45 earn their GEDs, and solved one of California's greatest injustices. Not bad for a dog who just knew how to cry when something was wrong.